Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
GSMC Football Podcast is back once again. It is a Tuesday evening, morning, afternoon, nighttime. Whenever you listen to it, it came out on Tuesday at least. It is your boy Ethan. It is your boy Brice. We're back again. The dynamic duo of the GSMC shining through, ready to give you guys some excellent content here. Brice, how are you doing today?
I am doing well today. I am just going through my day like always, man. Just chilling, having a good time, keeping up with some sports. Obviously watched all the games this weekend, or as many games as I could this weekend. So that's always good, to sit down, watch some football on Sundays. And yeah, man, it's been going pretty well, man.
All right, that's excellent. I've been good. I'm trying to keep calm, not panic. I think that's the number one thing for fans with some sort of expectations going on and they're not meeting them. Is just not panic. It's 3 weeks of football and there hasn't been a normal off season. A lot of things can change within the next 3 weeks itself. Some teams that are 3-0 could be 3-3 by all we know, and vice versa. So no time to panic. However, we have to go over what happened on this past football Sunday, Brice. Of course, Thursday night game was kind of one of those Thursday night games again, right? So Dolphins scored all the points that they wanted, 231-13 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Anything from that game you would like to talk about first?
Not particularly too much. I know Gardner Minshew didn't have a great game, but listen, he's had two good games and one not so good game, so I don't want people jumping off the bandwagon and saying, "Oh, yep, he is what we thought he was." And let's calm down, give him a bigger sample size. Things happen. Everybody has bad games. I think you've even said it where sometimes Thursday night games, it just seems like one team's dominant, the other team is, and just got to see who it is that night.
Yeah, so in the GSMC Sports Slack said that right there, exactly quoted me. Right there. That's why I stay away from them in fantasy. If I see a Thursday night game and it's a team I don't trust, I bench them. Absolutely. Yeah. Every time.
And for me, also, I think from Miami side, it's just good. They had finally had a good week. Fitzpatrick didn't put up a lot of numbers, but played efficient, played well enough defensively, and they were making some things happen. Get the first win of the season, so obviously, congrats to Brian Flores and his staff getting a win earlier than they got last year. So maybe they can build some momentum. Obviously, because obviously we see the AFC East. Bills are out here looking great. Offense looks completely different from last year, and the Patriots are obviously the Patriots. So,
yeah, I don't know why we overthought that. We thought the Patriots were going to stink or something like that. I don't.
Well, they kept Jarrett Stidham. Maybe we would have been right. Cam has been a very great, I guess, blessing to them, and the fact that they changed their offense to accommodate Cam. And they were probably always going to still have a decent to good defense, but just having that and then having Cam playing as well as he's played, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, the move to bring in Cam Newton, you might be able to say is what is helping them, propelling them to a 2-1 record right now and playing as well as they have.
I mean, it's no question it is, but at the same time, it's like maybe Belichick played some 4G chess with us, because I remember the rumors for Cam was like the Steelers and then possibly the Bears and then the Patriots. Those are like the only real deal vacant quarterback problem areas that people were looking at without everybody else saying, well, it's too young, it's too early to tell. And the Patriots just kind of bided their time. It looked like nobody was really biting on Cam, so they said, oh, we don't have to pay Cam really as much. Now we got him. And they could even re-sign him now. They have the cap space they want to. I think they're probably looking for another trade at some point to really make a push at this thing. They're probably going to wait for another few weeks just to see what they have within this team as a unit. But no, man, the Patriots look good. They defensively, they look about as good as they usually are. Of course, their secondary is their strength, and they've lost a lot of depth when it comes to the front seven due to the COVID opt-outs. But other than that, they look like the Patriots that we used to see.
Yeah, definitely. And, that's obviously, good for them. But like I said, obviously this week, touch on the last team in the AFC East, the Jets still look like the worst team in football by far.
You sure it's by far? It might be just both New York teams are kind of on equal footing right now.
I mean, they're both terrible, but I like it. To me, I think about every game this season. The Jets have been basically, for the most part, blown out every game. The Giants, at least, was competitive in one game. So that's what gives them the nod. So, both New York teams are terrible. That's the worst market to be terrible in because they're getting crucified by the media. And everybody's going to be calling for everybody's head.
Should they be getting crucified, though, at this point? What have you seen from the Jets in the last 10 years? The last 10 years that make you think, you know what? I should keep going hard on the Jets. Look what they've done. Nothing. What are you expecting out of the Jets now? That's your fault. Honestly, that is your fault. If you expect, and it's your fault if you expected, the Joe Judge Giants to show you something. Right now, I mean, sure, if you had Saquon and stuff, but even with Saquon, you saw enough from the first 2 weeks that were like, oh yeah, this is the season that we're headed towards. Nothing, their defense, Giants defense, at least at a certain point, looked a little bit promising, but now it's just too tough, man. If you can't score, your defense will never look good, and that's just the problem. If you cannot score, your defense will never look good, and even if you do score some points, your defense can still look bad. Like the Bengals or the Eagles. Not really. Their defense looks okay. Their pass rush looks fine. But then again, they played the Bengals, and it's just it's just, man, when you want to talk about a whiff of a prediction, I thought the Eagles would have one of the better offenses in the league this year, if not the best. It's been bad, man. I've hit on most things. I felt like Julio was going to have one of his best seasons ever. Now, granted, he didn't play yesterday, but through the first 2 weeks of the season, he's looked okay, except for, the first game he looked phenomenal. Second game was kind of okay. It was like, okay, Julio, this is not, you're playing through some injuries right now. I feel it, and he didn't play week 3, but I still have hope for that take to live through itself.
I know Calvin Ridley might be the best receiver by year's end at this rate.
He's phenomenal. And I was mad when you drafted him. I'm mad now. Once again, the Falcons have found a way to get an Alabama wide receiver to be, just to be an all-pro guy. He just does the right things. He gets to the
end zone. I mean, it's crazy. That's the thing. They criticize Julio. He doesn't score enough.
It makes me sad. And then now
you got Calvin, the other side. That's all he does is score.
It makes me extremely depressed when I see the Falcons still able to throw the ball deep. and the Saints just can't do it right now. I don't know what's going on, man. It's like...
Now, we know why they don't go deep. Now, you know why they don't take deep shots.
No. Listen. I used to be, I still think Drew Brees' arm is not, it's natural decline. It's not there all the way. But he had some throws past, the 20-yard line or 20 yards on Monday night's game that looked promising. It's just that I really do think it's not because of his lack of arm strength that's the problem now, pushing the ball downfield. I legitimately believe he has no faith when he throws the ball. So he second guesses it.
We by no faith. Like, can you elaborate?
When you watch Drew Brees play, if you have, you'll see him pump fake like 3 times in the pocket. I'm like, Drew, Get rid of the ball. Like, Drew never holds on to the ball this long. And that's the problem. Like, he's looking downfield. It's just that he's pumping downfield, and he's just like, oh, no, can't do that. So he just checks it down every single time. It's actually depressing. It is depressing because you'll see it. Alvin Kamara will sit open in the flat routes for like 5 seconds, bro. He will check down. He will pump the ball twice, and then he's like, all right, come on, Alvin. Here you go. Works for my fantasy team, but this is just, it's troublesome to watch sometimes. I don't think it's the arm strength. I just don't think he has faith in throwing it, man. I don't think he feels confident.
Do you think the loss of Michael Thomas is another reason because he doesn't have that Mr. Reliable?
I mean, sure, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like our wide receivers get separation. I feel like guys are open. It's just, I don't think Drew Brees has confidence in making that throw sometimes, and I think the arm strength thing kind of gets in his head instead of, I don't think he just doesn't want to make mistakes. I don't think he wants to turn the ball over because, quite frankly, our defense stinks right now. Our defense is not good. We're getting no pass rush. Our rush defense is fine, but that can only do you so much when you're playing against guys that sling the football up and down the field all the time like they do now. It's not looking great. Our secondary is supposed to be our strong suit this year. It's not working out.
I found something interesting when I was watching the Sunday night game. You know how they have their like Pro Football Focus rankings?
Yeah.
So it was interesting because obviously, for y'all in the secondary, your best corner has been known as Marshawn Lattimore, and he's like pretty low. So, and from what I've seen, he hasn't had the best season so far, but Janoris Jenkins is in the top 10. So, I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, if you've seen like, okay, Janoris has played better than Marshawn, but that was interesting seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, Marshawn hasn't played well, and that's just kind of the end-all be-all of that. Like, there have been specific, like, situational football things that the Saints have not done well. The Saints have been a team time and time again, as I've watched them do this. They'll be great on first and second down, but when it comes to the big third down stop to get the ball back in Drew Brees' hands, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. That's just they can't get off the field right now, and that's the problem. The Saints defense, I think, will be fine once they can get off the field. But until they get off the field, they're going to keep struggling. We're going to have games like the Rams or like the Raiders game where we're just getting destroyed by Darren Waller because we can't stop them. And then we'll have games like the Packers game where it's just, if there's a quarterback that's just going to be better than you, you're going to have a hard time. They ran the same play time and time again, out of the same formation, the same look, and like the same bootleg. We could not stop it no matter what. Even if it was a run or pass, we didn't know how to stop it, and we got killed by the same look every time, every drive. It was frustrating. It's frustrating as a team, as a fan of a team that supports a team like this, because could you imagine how fun it would be? Like, just imagine this, right? You're a team with low expectations, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing really expected over, like say you're a Cardinals fan. You're through the roof right now. You didn't come in with these high expectations to be great. You didn't know what you wanted. Like, right now, I wish I could be in the mind of a Panthers fan right now and be like, you know what? With everything that was said on us in this offseason, no Christian McCaffrey, we're 1-2. We could be 2-1. Progress. That's what I'm thinking. Like,
we're moving forward.
Expectations. When you can't meet the expectations that were set upon you, there's nothing worse in football, honestly, because you're just going to be in the national media talking circles all day. Like, I cannot stand when the Saints are at the top of the hour, because it's just like, there's no winning this. The Saints are never in a place where when they're good, they don't get talked about. When they're bad, it's just all over the place. Unfortunately for you guys are in the same boat. No one wants to talk about the good things about the Falcons.
Of course, but no one's going to talk about that.
I think it's just the NFC South thing. No one cares about the South. We're not a big market, unfortunately.
Well, technically we are, but that's why it hurts even more. But yeah, listen, I told you when you called me, man, I really wasn't feeling any emotions when I was watching the collapse happen again. I was just
I called you before the collapse happened too. That's the sad thing.
Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, I'm just like, whatever. But listen, I already know what needs to be done. Till it's done, I have no emotional response to this team. At the end of the day, I just got Falcons on my fantasy team. As long as they get day points, I'm happy.
Oh, Lord. It's gotten that bad. That's 2013 Ethan right there. 2013, 15, and 16 right there. That's some 7 and 9s. Hop on the train, brother. That's where you're headed. 7 and 9. That's a good day, too. I don't know if you guys... Were you 7 and 9 last year? Or were you 8?
We were 7 and 9. We were 7 and 9.
Oh, yeah. Get prepared. Here it comes again. Winnable games, just lost.
We might be 4 and 12 the way it's looking.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's getting a taste of that.
We done blew about 8 leads.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Matt Ryan's getting a taste of that Drew Brees lifestyle. All the laughing. Here it comes. But we're going to take our first break, and we're going to come back talking more football GSMC.
Listen up, sports bettors. This is Brice and Ethan here to tell you about our favorite sports book, and that's BetUS. Football, basketball, and baseball are all back, and that means it's time to get down your bets. I only endorse one sports book, and that's BetUS.com. Why, you ask? BetUS is the pioneer in online betting with more than 25 years in the biz. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity, and you need to know that you're going to get paid.
Right. You need a sports book that offers everything, including live betting, MMA, golf, horses, esports, entertainment, and all kinds of crazy prop bets and futures. Nobody in the industry gives you better or bigger bonuses than BetUS. Go to betus.com now and fill out your information. It only takes a minute. And when you get to the "How did you hear about us" box, type in GSMC football. And you can get up to 150% in bonuses on your first deposit. Nobody beats that. I bet at BetUS, and so should you. Join BetUS today, and don't forget to type in GSMC football to get up to 150% bonus on your first deposit. That's betus.com.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, Brice, we're back once again, GSMC Football Podcast, and we're about to get into what has been our big surprises so far through 3 weeks of football. Brice, why don't you go ahead and get us started, if you have one, off the top of your head. What has been one of the biggest surprises that you've had watching the NFL in 3 weeks?
One of the biggest surprises, I think, is, and I don't know if this is a surprise, but we definitely expected more out of their top 2 teams. The NFC East is the worst division in football, even worse than the NFC South, because everybody looks terrible. Honestly, Dallas should be 0-3 right now. Washington is the only team who's basically, you could say, all year has earned a win, and they're currently tied for first with Dallas. The Eagles are in complete shambles. Wentz acts like he can't play quarterback. It's just everything's terrible. Now there's going to be rumors that they're going to start Jalen Hurts one of these days, and then just the Giants. We know about the Giants. The Joe Judge. Listen, it's his first year. Team wasn't that talented last year. If Daniel Jones regresses, then we're going to have questions about if he's going to be the quarterback of the future. Obviously, they'll Saquon Barkley, but still, it's just the entire division. It's just not good. It's really sad to see, but it feels like every other year the NFC East isn't good. It feels like that's the division that gets the most coverage because of the Cowboys and the Eagles. But they're always never the best divisions in football. It's never that competitive. It's usually a 2-team race most years, which is between those 2 teams. And then if we happen to get a Washington year, which the last time they were actually decent was with Kirk Cousins. And then I think when they went to the playoffs that year, they were 9-7. So it's not like this division's doing anything crazy. I just think that it really is just disappointing. I think Cowboys obviously have high expectations with the offense that they have, but they have some issues on the defensive end. And clearly, they have some guys. Alt Smith's play well, but defensively, back end's an issue. Wide receivers on Dallas, it's kind of sad to say this, but Amari Cooper, who just got paid $20 million, $25 million a year, is literally the 3rd or 4th option on that receiving core. And that's not good at all either. And just you can also see the passive injuries on the offensive line. Dak's been under a lot of pressure. Everything's just not looking good. Obviously, Eagles, for the season, lost some defensive linemen, lost offensive linemen. Wide receivers have been a little banged up. And Wentz just looked terrible in most of and just throwing picks left and right. And you're just like, what is going on here? Especially after how he ended last season with no wide receivers, but played well. And now this year he's like, he can't. It's like he's missing basic reads. And so, yeah, the entire NFC East, man, that's my shock how terrible they are as a division as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, they're supposed to be stronger than this, right? At least they're top 2. Like, I thought the Eagles would be good. I thought the Cowboys had the makings of being a really strong playoff contender, maybe even a Super Bowl contender just off of talent from their offensive side. And I didn't think their defense would struggle as much as it has. But honestly, yeah, the NFC East looks like a division that anybody can win, and that's not a good thing, right? That's not the best scenario right now. I think that I guess everybody has to go with the Cowboys off of the idea that they have the most talent in the division, but it's too early to write off anybody. You can't write off Washington. I mean, you can write off the Giants, but even now it's just like anything can really happen. And Dallas hasn't proven anything at all for me to feel like, yeah, Dallas is a good football team right now. I'd say the same thing about the New Orleans Saints, mind you. Both are 1 and 2. Both hasn't shown me anything as of yet to be like, yeah, they can win some games. Like the Saints can't stop shooting themselves in the foot. The Cowboys start off slow too often. And when it's time to win, Atlanta gave them a game, right? First game Atlanta gave them. Their week 1, who do they play?
The Rams.
The Rams, right? Another game that could have been winnable. They just started off slow. And, of course, their offensive line has not been able to protect Dak as well as you'd want him to. That's another thing. Dak Prescott has turned into a pocket passer. What's that about? What's going on here? He looked his most lethal when he was scoring touchdowns with his legs. Now, granted, they were at like goal line yardage stuff. Like he wasn't running like 10 yards and up. He wasn't doing Lamar Jackson stuff. But having Dak as a runner makes that team so much more potent. And you would think that that's what they want to do. But Dak Prescott is trying to be a pocket passer. This is like when RG3 was saying, yeah, I want to be a pocket passer. Like, no. Run. Like, I don't understand this. Are you seeing the same things I'm seeing? Like, why is Dak taking like 5-step dropbacks? He didn't do this at like Mississippi State. Like, this isn't what he is. This is not his strong suit. Now, granted, he's gotten better, but Dak's best strong suit isn't that he's a good passer. But when Dak is great is when he is running, making people miss, making things with his legs. Like, there should be no reason why we're seeing guys like Aaron Rodgers make a decision to run 17 yards upfield and get a first down, and Dak is just not doing it. Like, go run, please.
And we forget Mississippi State, that offense was a quarterback run, then pass offense. So it's not like Dak can do it. He's not a small guy.
Right.
And he has some feet. He can move a little bit. So for some reason, when he's gotten to Dallas, they really never used him in this, hey, so we need you to run like maybe 5-6 times a game, pick up a couple of first downs, maybe some yardage. he's really just been in the pocket the whole time, and he's just through it. And sometimes it makes you wonder, are they even using Dak to the best of his abilities?
Yeah, for sure. I think that outside of that, though, I think the biggest surprise so far for me, and maybe it shouldn't have been a surprise, but it's kind of surprised how bad it's gotten. This Jet stuff is honestly abysmal. Let's look at the last 3 Jets games, shall we? Week 3, the Jets lose to the Colts 36-7. Bad game. Horrible game. They lose 31-13 to the 49ers. I'm pretty sure that's the game that Nick Mullins came in and finished the job. Now, granted, they didn't look like they were going to win that game regardless, but that's the end all be all. And then week 1, they lose to the Bills 27-17, and that 17, honestly, that game was done when it was 21-0, and that was just kind of it. So here we are. They're going into week 4, 0-3. They have to play the Broncos. So
both teams are in shambles right now.
Both teams are bad, and that's the Thursday night game, mind you.
Oh boy, ain't nobody watching that.
Listen, I wish there were a better way. There's so many more things I would want to do than watch this game on Thursday night, but I have to because it's a part of my job. But what do you do with this? Like, there's just no way. And the thing is, do you fire Adam Gase because he has a team that there was no expectations to win anyway, and you still somehow fall below expectations? Like, at least look like a football team, I think. That's the biggest thing. They don't look like a football team. There's a couple teams out here that do not look like complete football teams in the NFL, and that's a problem. Now, granted, Miami didn't look like a football team early on in their season last year, and they turned it around. So I can't sit here and say that, things can't change. But for right now, the Jets, the Broncos, unfortunately, due to injuries, they don't look very good, competent football team. The Bengals are like half a football team at times.
And the Bengals have been very competitive in all of their games. They could have won the Chargers game. I mean, it was overtime, so they could have beat the Eagles. I mean, so it's not even like it's like they're 0-3, but it's like they're much more competitive. What you can see, okay, there's something here. Just gotta get better players and da. Jets, it's like where's the competition?
Right.
Where's the like fight from the team? I know they have injuries. I know people opted out, but dang, they're making Sam Darnold look terrible. Now everybody's thinking he can't be a franchise quarterback or a good quarterback in this league.
Right.
And so it's just like, oh boy. And honestly, I feel more confident in Denver still going into the Thursday night game than the Jets, because I feel like Denver still knows who they are. They just don't have the players because they're hurt or whatever. Jets, I feel like the players don't want to play for Gase, to be honest with you. And
who does? And that's the problem. Like, I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and they made an interesting point. Like, what good quality does Adam Gase give you as a coach that makes you like, you know what? He may not be this or that, but he has this. Like, I've never heard a good thing about Adam Gase this whole time, from Miami to now. Like, who is this guy? What's his deal? Like, there's nothing good that comes out of Adam Gase camp. I've heard nothing. No, like, you know what? Smart guy. He knows what he's doing. Like, I don't think I've heard Chris Collinsworth talk about Adam Gase at all. Maybe that's just because I don't bother to watch the Jets or Miami too much. So maybe that's on me. But, at least Chris Collinsworth tries to say one good redeeming factor about some team, sometime, some player, right? Mm-hmm. Never have I ever heard anybody, not even Chris Collinsworth, be like, you know what? Adam Gase, here's a guy who, like, I've never heard that one. It just doesn't happen. That's why this is so shocking to me. Like, they're just this bad. Like, this bad. The Jets did not finish this bad. Even if they don't have Jamal Adams, they didn't finish this bad, Brice. Sam Darnold showed promise last year. This is a steep regression. This is bad. This is horrific.
Yeah. No running game. No,
Frank
wide
Gore
receivers
is
to
getting
speak of.
17 carries. He's like 37. If Frank Gore is a large part of your offense, you're doing something wrong. Like, what's happening? Open your eyes. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Brice, what's going on? There's things to blame for the Giants. There's things to blame. What is to blame for this Jets performances, man? What is to blame? I could not imagine. I complain. I am a spoiled fan. In fact, you're a spoiled fan too. At least you have something. You have something to grasp on as a Falcons fan. If there's one thing you know the Falcons are going to do, they're going to put up some points that don't matter in the end. The Jets do nothing.
It's funny because I was just thinking outside of Darnold, you know, like the Giants left like Saquon last week. So it was like, oh, huge player. Oh, now they're going to be even worse. The Jets, honestly, they could lose anybody outside. I mean, even honestly, at this point, they could lose Darnold, and it's just like I don't think that's going to make them any worse than before. They're going to be worse with him or worse without him. They don't have a player important enough right now. That's just like, this is huge news. You know? Like,
right.
Really, who do they have? It's just like, oh, the Jets lost him? Dang. It's like, oh, they lost him? Oh, okay. I guess they're going to keep being bad.
Honestly, they're a team that's just so hard to keep up with because you're just like, they're so supposed to be in a bigger market. Of course, the Giants are probably more popular, but the Jets are a team that were like, you think Muhammad Wilkerson is still there, right? Like, you think that, and I'm pretty sure he's been gone for years, but you're just like, wow, don't the Jets still have Muhammad Wilkerson? I think so. Like, you don't pay attention to the Jets, and this is why. Like, I don't think I've paid attention to the Jets since the Rex Ryan firing, and this is why, because they don't give you anything to pay attention to. The last time they were like nationally relevant was when they drafted Sam Darnold. And then after that is when Sam Darnold saw a ghost. And then now, or maybe should I say when they got Le'Veon Bell, then the Sam Darnold sees ghost thing, then the what did he get? It wasn't staff. What did Sam Darnold come down with that came out of nowhere?
Oh, mono.
Yeah, Sam Darnold got mono, then came back, saw a ghost. And then they pulled off a decent run near the tail end and made you think, okay, maybe the Jets can figure some things out. They have not done such a thing, Brice. And before that, the last thing the Jets were kind of okay to be known for was the fact that they had Geno Smith. This is not a good timeline to be a Jets fan. I don't know when the last time it was a good timeline to be a Jets fan. It's kind of done. So I feel for all those people over there. That's the biggest surprise for me by far. Nothing else really has come to as a shocker. Everything seems to be reasonably placed where it needs to be, except for the Vikings thing, I guess. The Vikings being this bad, I mean, a lot of it's due to injuries on defense, but the points don't tell the whole story here because they score some points, but a lot of times, a lot of these games aren't close. Like these 3 games that they've played so far as a team are not close. And the scoreboard doesn't do it justice because you're going to look at that Green Bay game and be like, well, 34 points on Green Bay. That game was not close, right? No, nowhere near close. They lost to the Colts 28-11, and that Colts team is weird as it gets. And then, of course, they lose again to the Titans, where that game, you could say different things about both of those teams, but none of them have shown you that they're that great. So I think those are it for me personally. But let's take another break and we'll come back and let's talk about some college football. GSMC.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
back. GSMC Football Podcast here on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm here with my boy Brice. Brice, you watched some college football on Saturday, man? Because so much things are happening. You know, the Pac-12 is back in, so all the Power Five are ready to get going on the season, even if it's a little bit late. Everybody's kind of stepping in and trying to do their thing. We had the SEC play this weekend, and we had some losses. You know what I'm saying? We had some games that didn't look too good, and we had some losses in the Big 12 too that did not look good either. So, which one would you rather start with here?
Let's go ahead and start with SEC first, man. We gotta get ahead and get to that LSU game as they lost a shootout to Mississippi State. It was honestly, if you think about it, Ethan, to be honest, with LSU losing their entire, literally their entire offense from the previous year, losing a good number of defenders in everything. Obviously, they were ranked as high as they were just based off their LSU, based off they are the defending national champions. But is it really shocking that they lost a game like this, coming off with that many people having to overturn? Mississippi had a lot more stars returning. The quarterback returned from last year. You see what he did. I mean, I believe he had over 600 yards, 500 yards passing.
Yeah, 623.
Yeah, so, Mississippi State, obviously we don't know. Because you know how every year, remember that 2-year, 3-year period when Dak was there, where Mississippi State was number one and a top team. And then I think the year previous, Ole Miss was kind of a top team. I don't know if this is another year for Mississippi State to rise up, but they definitely took care of business against LSU, and Ed Orgeron has to get this thing figured out, obviously, because they better hope Mississippi State is good, or else it's going to look like a bad loss at the end of the year as well. So, I think in that game, I'm not necessarily surprised they lost, just because of the turnover that they had. And I wouldn't say they're at an Alabama level where they just got 5 stars ready to go. LSU does have some 5 stars ready to go, but they have some 4, some 3. It just depends. And depending on chemistry, and obviously because of the lack of offseason, that's why I think this really hurt a team like LSU, replacing so many guys and not really having the ability to have as much practice together. I think it showed, and that's why they were upset by Mississippi State.
Yeah, they didn't have their best defensive player in Stinley Jr. He was out with a medical scratch, but not COVID related. So that hurts tremendously. Of course, the best player, maybe the best player in college football right now, period, but the best wide receiver, no doubt, Jamar Chase. He's still opted out. He has not decided to return. That's going to hurt. And I saw a funny tweet that day where it said Jamar Chase saw what he was going to have to do and said, you know what, if I'm going to have to be Michael Thomas of LSU, I probably should get paid for it. So he decided not to be that sort of volume stat guy for LSU, not being paid for it. So I found that kind of funny. But, LSU, I expected them to lose a couple games this year. Maybe 2. This one game definitely is going to be a big time loss for them. I don't know how far they're going to drop in the rankings. They were ranked 6 coming in. I think now they're probably going to drop down to maybe 10 or 12, depending. Granted, we had some other big loss or a big upset that's going to come and wreak havoc on certain teams in the Big 12, as Oklahoma, they lost to Kansas State in 38-35. It was not a good game from Spencer Rattler. He didn't have a good half, I should say, and they just didn't have what it takes. So,
isn't that who they lost to last year as well? Didn't they also lose to Kansas State last year? I think they lost to Kansas State last year too.
Did they? I don't know.
We can get our researches on it.
How about that? Yeah. So, last year they made Kansas State upset Oklahoma 48-41 in Manhattan, Kansas last year. And it makes it super disappointing for the Sooners. They outgained the Wildcats 517 yards to 400, but they had 4 turnovers to none for Kansas State. So they just kept giving the ball away. So Spencer Rattler passed for 385 or 387 for touchdowns, but he threw 3 interceptions. So, of course, this is his second start ever as a quarterback. That's what Lincoln Riley was saying. He's a young guy, and they're going to continue to build on it, and continue to get better and get coached better as well. But, that's not great. That is not a good sign. At this point, some of the takeaways is that the Wildcats aren't going to fold when they're behind, and their defense improved in the second half. And, their offense is really good. And, I almost said Kyler Murray, but Spencer Rattler is a great player. And it's almost kind of funny how, a similar guy in similar systems where, Kyler Murray had a pretty pedestrian game for his standards that he set so far. He's probably had his worst game as a starter on Sunday. And then we see Spencer Rattler struggling as well in a similar offense, Same place where Baker Mayfield had his best moments, Oklahoma is starting to show some signs of we don't really know what these guys are,
Yeah, I guess you could say that with them. And, one thing I think that also makes this year intriguing, since every team is kind of starting their seasons at different times, playing different amount of games, losses like this could really seal the season for Oklahoma in terms of
still got basketball on the mind. Shout out to Doc Rivers. You got let go today.
But that could end their season because they lost to an unranked team that probably will be ranked next week, but right now is unranked. And they don't have 11 more games to make it up. They have, I believe they're playing 8 or 9 games. I think they're playing 9 because that's what they usually play. So you only have 8 more games to make this up. That may not be enough time. That may not be enough games to make that up. Especially, again, if Kansas State does not end up going on some streak and potentially winning the Big 12, it's that's one thing about this season I think is going to change. That's why I think the Pac-12 really doesn't have much of a chance to make the playoff because they're playing so late. And unless a team wins out, they lose a game, it's over. I feel like in the SEC is the only conference that can lose one game to still have a chance just because everybody can look at the SEC as the SEC. If you lose to Alabama, that's Alabama. You know what I'm saying? As long as you beat everybody else, you'll still have a chance. But
I think it depends how bad you lose to these SEC teams. That Florida versus Ole Miss game, that's not going to be great for Ole Miss. Granted, they weren't ranked anyway. But you'll look at that sort of game and you'll look at a game like, I don't know, Kentucky versus Auburn. Kentucky only scored 13 points. Auburn had 29. But for a lot of these games in the first week of the SEC, it wasn't like people were getting torched straight up. Arkansas fought for a little bit with Georgia before things got out of hand. No one is 100% at their full capacity showcasing their best football right now. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is that you got to be able to scrape these wins out because no one's playing good football right now. Texas almost lost to Texas Tech and they scored 2 quick touchdowns and finished the deal, but it was 63-56. That's horrifyingly bad defense.
But that's Big 12 football, baby.
So, yeah, you might be right about this Big 12 and may not be able to make the playoff thing. Of course, if Texas continues to go on a win streak, they probably will get in, depending on what happens. But, teams like Tennessee almost losing to South Carolina like that, it has its merits, right? Tennessee, I'm pretty sure that's not going to be their best level of football they can play. And we already see it with teams like Miami. Miami looks really good right now, and they beat the brakes off of Florida State.
2 primetime games in a row and has looked great in both.
So I don't want to sit here and say that Miami is back to the U, but I'm definitely looking at some where is De'Aaron King going to land in the draft stuff because,
Well, he's short, so they're probably going to put him in that. I don't know if you remember a quarterback from Oregon a couple of years ago. I believe his name was Vernon Carey Jr. I don't know if that was. Yeah, they'll probably put him in there. He'll probably have to switch positions like Greg Ward also.
So whatever, man. Sean Payton will find out a way to do it. Listen, come on down to the Bayou. We got Gators there too. We got Gators there too.
But the only team that did look like normal this past week was Alabama. They handled Missouri from start to finish, so they looked the same, like always.
I mean,
and the craziest thing is,
was there any doubt though, bro? Like, it's Nick Saban.
I mean, not really. He always gets his team ready, but honestly, man, I think after week 2 or 3, man, you might know who's going to make the playoff or not, especially in the SEC. Georgia could be eliminated because they have to play Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee within the next 4 weeks. I mean, Auburn could be eliminated. You know, they could lose.
I mean, you never know. Since it's so much like the SEC is going to be such a bloodbath this year, teams might just take it upon themselves. Like, you know what? If I can't make it, you can't make it. So they play their best football against Alabama and just start getting into slugfest and just, you know what? We're going to try and take down the giant right here, right now. Like a few years ago when Alabama lost in the Iron Bowl to Auburn. Auburn was like ranked, like, I don't know, 10th. They weren't, and they jumped. And this was before the playoff. So this was like when they beat Georgia miraculously and beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl and got to the SEC championship game. And then they got to did they get to the final? I think so. Similar things. Anyway, Alabama didn't make it back after that, unfortunately for them. So it's going to be one of those times where since everything is in conference for the most part, everybody's just going to be like, you know what? Everybody does not like each other here. I'm not going to do you any favors. This is college football. This isn't the NFL where people get money and security and stuff like that. Like, you're going down, buddy. Like, this is it.
Yeah, pretty much, man. And the thing is, man, we still got 2 conferences that have to start playing, so
yeah,
we have to wait to see how they look.
I'm very curious to see how the Pac-12 looks after all of this, because the Pac-12 wasn't going to be that strong. They had some teams, but they weren't going to be like this juggernaut conference all of a sudden. And without, with lack of practice and OTAs and all this stuff, one of the stranger off-season events ever. I'd have to imagine they're just not going to look great. Granted, they only get to play against themselves, so that's cool. I think that's the biggest takeaway here from college football is that imagine if they didn't have to play against just only themselves. Like if they had to go out of conference, this season would be a mess. It still is a mess. There's still COVID things going on that are kind of being not talked about nearly as much. Like you still see some pretty bad COVID stuff going on at some campuses, depending on where you talk to. But for the most part, they're trying, at least. They're trying to keep this season going, no matter the cost. So that's kind of where college football is at right now. I think a lot of things are just up in the air. Nobody's at 100% football, and that was to be expected. And the teams that are winning, I don't know what it is with these, Florida had a really good win. Miami had a really good win. Florida State looks bad, though. Guess that's the sacrificial lamb out of there.
Oh, yeah, man. They wanted Willie Taggart out of there. Now they're still just as bad.
Yeah. No, speaking of Willie Taggart, Jimbo, look at him. I mean, it's Vanderbilt, so that's not actually great.
They had a very competitive game against those Vanderbilt Commodores. Yes, sir. Go Commodores.
Jimbo, 17-12. I don't know what to do with that. Do you?
You never know. Vanderbilt might be better than we think.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna chalk that up to teams not knowing what they have right now, and they're not fully prepared for a season. That's just gonna be right there. Them and Arkansas, right there. Vanderbilt and Arkansas, probably gonna be the 2 worst teams in the SEC, respectively. And I don't think it'll be anywhere. I don't think anybody's going to get any close to how bad they're probably going to be overall. Also, real quick before we go to our last break, shout out to the Ragin' Cajuns, 3-0, ranked 19th so far. They may jump up 2 to 3 spots now. They're on the prowl, baby. The Ragin' Cajuns. They beat Georgia Southern, the Eagles, in a bit of a shocker. 20 to 18.
Yeah, I remember about that.
Yeah, man, 20 to 18. Ragin' Cajuns 3-0. But we're going to take our final break and come back, and we're going to talk about just some of our final takes on week 3 of the NFL and just what have we been seeing. What do we expect for rest of season for some things, and how are we feeling? Maybe there's some things that we talk about that we've been talking about earlier, like coach firings. Maybe so. GSMC will be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, Brice, we're at the end of week 3, heading into week 4. What are some final takes, some ideas? I mean, I say final takes. The season is long from finish, but what are some initial takes that you have right now across all spectrums of the NFL that you feel like you just need to get off your chest right now? State them before people jump on them and say that you didn't say it first or whatever the case may be. What are some things that you're thinking about right now for the NFL that you just need to get off your chest, man? Give us your takes through 3 weeks.
Takes through 3 weeks, sir. I think one of my first takes is that right now, I think that the Bills are establishing themselves as the third best team in the AFC conference as a whole, as they have continued to light up scoreboards. And even though they almost blew a lead to the Rams, but the Rams are a really good team, as you can tell, as they seem more like the Super Bowl team than last year's team. The Bills still were able to come out with a victory. Josh Allen still looks great. And I think that the Bills are a team that, if they continue to go on this upward trend, could cause either Baltimore or the Chiefs some problems, because we forget the Bills were built on the defensive side of the ball. So defensively, they're going to be up and ready for that matchup. And then if the offense continues to come along with it and they continue to score the way they can, Stephon Diggs continues to be what he's been doing, and the offense continues to open up, they might be a team that could create a big upset in the playoffs with one of the top 2 teams in the AFC.
I mean, that's very possible. I think that the Bills look pretty good. Like, they look pretty good. I don't know if I want to put them above the Patriots just yet, just because of the pedigree and the fact that the Patriots are still winning. And honestly, I think they've played tougher games as in general, or they played better opponents than the Bills had so far. You know, they played the Raiders and they played the Seahawks. They did lose to the Seahawks, but it was a competitive game. Of course, the Bills handled the Rams pretty easily for the most part of that game until the back half of the fourth. It got out of hand, but for the most part, I don't think they'll have that happen to them again. So, yeah, the Bills are pretty good. I would say that one of my takes, so here we go. Remember last week I said that I think a coach would probably get fired by week 6 just because 4 weeks seems a bit too much in the COVID era right now. I'm lying. I think we're going to see our first coach let go by week 5. I think after 4 weeks, depending on who goes 0-4, we're going to see somebody get the boot. Depends on how bad it is. Who do the Falcons play? Who do the Falcons play week 4?
The Packers on Monday night.
Oh, no. Oh, no. You know what's funny? The Falcons and the Packers have a lot of funny history, but this is probably the game that Dan Quinn coaches his best football. Like, just watch.
Coaches. I mean, I don't think we're going to get out to no 28 to 0 lead in this game.
I think that
if that happens, I was like, yeah, we're going to just go ahead.
Watch Dan Quinn out-coach Matt LaFleur on Monday Night Football and extends his time with the Falcons by 3 games because of
honestly, bro, I kind of want us to get smacked so we can get fired.
That's what they all want, bro. This is every Falcons fan I've talked to is just like, I just want us to lose so that way Dan has to go. Because I guess you all know that not Thomas Dimitrov, but, Arthur Blank just doesn't believe in letting people go before their time.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you've seen a tweet that Shannon Sharp said, because I didn't know this about Arthur Blank. Apparently he's wrote books on not reacting off of emotion. He doesn't like to respond off of emotion. But they're just like, hey, Arthur, what else do you need to see? It's okay to blow a lead and fire this man. Trust me, it truly is okay. Don't feel like you have to think about this. There's just nothing to think about. I don't know if you're thinking. I don't know if you think something's going to change next week, because it's not. It's going to be the same result. So just put everybody. Honestly, the happiest, most satisfying thing that you can give a Falcon fan this season is the firing of Dan Quinn. That will make this season it makes it feel like, okay, even if we suck for the rest of the year, I'm happy because that man is now on the sidelines.
It just doesn't look good. Like, you can't back to back. Like, there's just no, like, it's different if you guys lost, right? If you guys lost, I mean, it would still be like, please fire Dan Quinn, but it would be different. Like, if it was a regular loss, you guys had the lead again and just gave it away. And not just gave it away. The refs tried to save you and you still gave it away. How do you do that? Again, you lose in the most improbable way 2 weeks ago against the Cowboys. Like, this is the most disastrous, improbable way you could ever imagine a team losing in a regular season game. And then you lose 16-point leads again. Like, it's just not. Honestly, Fox should do something. We shouldn't have to be forced to sit here and watch the Falcons play just because we live in the region of the Atlanta Falcons, to have to watch them on Fox every Sunday. It's not fair. There are other teams that I would rather watch than the Falcons. But because I live in this area, I have to sit here and watch the Falcons choke away leads. And it's not fair for me as a football fan. It's not fair to Falcons fans. This is just not it. When are the Falcons going to be on the road? I think we're on the road. And I still have to watch them on Fox, actually. So never mind. It's foolishness, honestly. That's what this is. It's foolishness. It's not cool. Dan Quinn must go. But I will say this as my second take, is that the Falcons will turn it around again, but it has to be without Dan Quinn. If you watch the games, right? I've watched every Falcons game this year. Their offense is really good. Like, their offense is spectacular, actually. Their offense is really good. Now, outside of the Seahawks game where they start off kind of slow, every week so far, they put 39 up on the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense is atrocious. We know this. They put up 26 against a decent Bears defense. And to be honest, that game wasn't even close until the fourth quarter. They had to bench their starting quarterback. And then, of course, the football god said, we're not done with you, Atlanta. We're going to give you another one. So I don't think the Falcons are as bad as their record says they are. Like, I don't think they're an 0-3 team.
We should be 2-1 right now. That's the crazy part.
That's the thing. They could be bad, but still be 2-1. Like, that's the problem. Their record doesn't showcase just the biggest picture. So I think it's just little things, man, like coachable things, and they're not being coachable right now. I don't know what's going on, but until Dan Quinn goes, this team can't turn it around, because if Dan Quinn turns his team around again, it's just back to square one. It's just like, whoa, maybe if Dan Quinn can get them going again early this time, then maybe. Here we are again. Dan Quinn is 0-3, just like last year. Bad times are imminent here for the Atlanta fan base.
Yes, it's not good, man. It's not good at all. Kind of sucks, to be honest, but it is what it is.
You sound sad, man. You don't sound. You sound depressed. I didn't want to make you depressed. I was trying to give you a little bit of hope, because I do think Dan Quinn is going to go soon.
Oh yeah, definitely has to. If not, man, like I said, man, I might have to give up my Falcons fanship for the year and move on to someone else. I wonder if maybe I should hop on the bandwagon. Hey, I'm gonna be like, what's the hashtag for Baltimore? Yes, sir. Lamar Jackson MVP 2 years in a row, baby.
Listen, I don't think the Baltimore fans want another Bird fan coming over there and putting curses on them. So I don't think that's going to happen. You have any other interesting thoughts, some think pieces that you've put together since week 3 has ended?
I guess if there's one thing from week 3 that I've gained, there still is a lot of injuries. And so there's definitely a lot of opportunity because now so many players are getting opportunities to play that may have never played, I guess, if the player never got hurt. And I think you might see a lot of breakout players this year throughout, just going into the season, because I feel like honestly, if a team obviously goes down because of injuries, and obviously they don't really have good backups, but if the team's able to stay up and that backup plays well, they can earn them some money. They can maybe replace the guy who was previously there, and then boom, people really show up, and then they start to, really establish themselves as players who can play in this league, and that's what you look for. So this definitely is the 3 weeks through all the injuries. This is the time for players that maybe never had the chance to play or compete or get playing time, now can play, compete, prove themselves, and then potentially find them a spot next year on another team if they have more of an opportunity there, or still on the same team as well. Mm-hmm. So to me, I think that's something that we need to look out for, because there's just been so many injuries. And obviously I know in terms of fantasy, this has a lot of impact, because a lot of waiver wires are going to be in shambles, because they're always having to replace, because nobody can stay healthy, because it's a lot of, it's a lot of soft tissue injuries, a lot of ACLs, honestly, a lot of ankles. You haven't seen any tore Achilles apparently, but yeah, a lot of stuff like that. So either your team's going to sink or swim, and this is going to really show if you have good backups or not.
For sure. All right. Let's get into some quick beats real quick. We're going to look ahead to week 4. I'm just going to start naming some games, and what do you think the outcomes are going to be? So first, Falcons Green Bay Monday night game, 8:15. We're in Lambeau Field. I don't believe fans will be there, but it's very possible that they might change that. So, Brice, what do you think is the outcome there?
I see. I got a solid 45-0 whooping.
There's just no way that could be the case. If anything is proven to you, it's just going to be like another 35-26 game where the Falcons ended up giving up too many points in the end.
All right, I'll go 27-42.
Oh Lord!
I mean, we scored 27 points. That's still a lot of points. Just
that would be the nail in the coffin, at least for fans.
Oh, yeah.
I think the fans would actually start to boycott legitimately.
Oh yeah, for sure.
On a Monday night, and you throw that one up, there's just no way. But Bills Raiders, 4:00 game.
I got Bills winning that game. I think Bills are going to go to 4-0. I think last week the Raiders were kind of exposed against the Patriots. They couldn't get the Josh Jacobs going, and I think that's obviously their offense. If Josh Jacobs can't get going, Derek Carr can't be as efficient through the air. So I'm sure the Bills got to take the same formula that New England took and shut down Josh Jacobs, and they'll have a very good chance. Plus, we know the Raiders secondary is very suspect, and like I said, with the Bills passing offense exploding this year and Josh Allen putting up great numbers, I expect them to have another big day through the air.
Okay. And Patriots Chiefs.
I think this will be a very interesting game. It's two contrasts of different styles. You have the Patriots who are grounded out, run it out, make just key throws to keep the chains moving kind of team. Then you got the Chiefs who are a big play, over the top. We're trying to score 40 in 40 minutes type of team. So I think I'm going with the Chiefs in this game, but I think it's going to be interesting early. I think the Patriots are going to pull away late, but I think it's going to be competitive for sure.
All right. Well, if you don't have any more final thoughts, I think we'll wrap it up here, man. So thank you all for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast this week. Don't forget to check out any more of our GSMC content at the GSMC Podcast Network. Please don't forget, please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, wherever podcast app that you choose to listen to. Don't forget to also follow us on social media, GSMC Football on Twitter and Facebook. And we'll be back next week on Tuesday for you guys to hear the dynamic duo of the podcast world. For Brice and Ethan, signing out. We'll see you all next week. Peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.